Merlin's clothes start to get dissolved, so Merlin realized that this spirit is made of holy water, and if he didn't have the magic immunity, he would have been completely erased by now. Slowly, he was losing consciousness and muttered, "That's why he hates fighting water enemies." At the same time, Alice was feeling uneasy, so she prayed for Merlin's safety. Meanwhile, Elizabeth noticed the shaking and wondered if the battle has begun. Suddenly, the roof collapsed and someone fell from above. It was Merlin, who destroyed the floor to free himself, but due to the holy water, his clothes got dissolved. Elizabeth wondered who this handsome man is, but then she turned her face away and asked, "Who is he, and what does he want?" Merlin tells her to calm down and picked a paper from the ground. He checked the contents and realized that this lady is the real queen. He asked Elizabeth if she is the real queen, who was abdicated and impersonated by her sister. Elizabeth asked Merlin, how does he know about this? Merlin replied that he is an adventurer Princess Michelle hired to come and save the real queen. Elizabeth grabbed Merlin and asked him to explain everything, and if Michelle is alright. Merlin then explained everything to her about Michelle and her actions to save her and the kingdom. Elizabeth fell on her knees as she was tricked again by Isabella into giving her blood to summon the lake spirit. But Merlin was happy as he never expected to find the real queen in the underground prison. At the same time, Isabella was using the lake spirit to destroy the disobeyers. Suddenly, Macefield attacks her, but her attack is blocked by Catherine. Isabella asked Macefield if she's gone mad because she is attacking the queen. But Macefield tells her to shut up and asked about the real queen's whereabouts. She said, only the blood of a pure ruler can summon the lake spirit, so the real queen must be alive. Angered, Macefield used her full power to attack, but is stopped by Catherine's gravity magic. She asked Catherine if she is Isabella's accomplice as well. Catherine laughed and said, without her protection gear, she can't defeat her. But to her surprise, Macefield managed to resist Catherine's gravity magic. Catherine realized that Macefield used her saint rank aura to defend herself, so she tells Isabella to run away, while she will hold off Macefield. Meanwhile, a knight informed Duke and Michelle that the lake spirit inflicted heavy loss upon their forces, and Sir Merlin was also devoured by it. Duke realized that humans can't defeat the lake spirit, so he decides to retreat. In the underground prison, Merlin dressed with the sheets that Elizabeth was using. He tells her that the place is about to be drowned, so they need to get out of there. He then picked the queen and jumped above through the hole. He reached outside and asked Elizabeth if she knows about any way to stop the lake spirit. Elizabeth replied that the lake spirit controls the massive water elemental, and if he wants to talk with the spirit, then he has to get to the lake below the palace. Merlin thought that he will have to cut it all down to go to the underground lake, but he also needs to hide his identity. He then asked Elizabeth if she has anything that he can use to cover his face. She then gave him her handkerchief and said it's very important to her, so he needs to return it. At the same time, Macefield and Catherine were fighting with all their strength. Macefield asked, why is she trying so hard for an imposter? Catherine answered, they all has something to protect, and only that person can help her in that. They then decide to finish each other with all their strength. But before Catherine could attack Macefield, someone stepped on her and threw her on the ground. That someone was none other than Merlin, who shouted that he's there to take his revenge. The spirit detected him again and attacked him with its full power. But this time, Merlin didn't do the same mistake and used his sword slash on the water monster and killed it. In the underground lake, the spirit lose all her power and muttered she shouldn't have awoken before 200 years before disappearing. Merlin destroyed the whole palace along with the water monster, but still wasn't worried because he managed to protect his identity. Macefield saw Merlin and wondered what the sword master of Elgin is doing there. But then Elizabeth said her name and asked if she is Windsor. Macefield took a battle stance and asked about the real queen whereabouts. But then Elizabeth hugged her and thanked God for keeping her safe. Macefield realized the person hugging her is none other than her sister Elizabeth. A knight informed Duke and the princess that after a massive explosion at the palace, the lake spirit vanished. Michelle shouted, that means Sir Merlin has succeeded. Merlin then came back and said he had done what he promised. He added it was a troublesome opponent, and he really put his life on the line this time. Michelle then thanked Merlin for defeating the lake spirit and saving the empire. But Merlin replied if she really wants to thank someone, then go and find that dumb girl Alice, who made him go. He also tells her that he found the real queen and he put her in the rear courtyard of the palace, so she needs to pay extra for this extra service. Duke quickly sends his knights to ensure the safety of the queen. Inside the tent, Merlin informed Alice that he completed the mission. Alice muttered that Lake Spirit was just being controlled by bad people, so she feels sad for her. But Merlin replied he didn't kill the spirit, as it is the guardian deity of the empire after all. Merlin then starts changing his clothes, and Alice shouts at him to stop stripping in front of her. But suddenly, she noticed a handkerchief falling from Merlin's clothes. She picked it up and thought, why Merlin has this high-quality handkerchief? She sniffs it and tears it apart, as it has the smell of a woman. She then angrily asked Merlin if he was messing with the woman out there. At the same time, Princess Michelle and Duke found Elizabeth, who had been rescued by Merlin. The rightful heir to the throne, who had long been imprisoned, was finally free. At night, Catherine was trying to run away from the palace. Isabella was with her too, who muttered that one day she will return to take it all back. But before they could go any further, they were blocked by someone's earth magic. That someone was the 11th Knight Winifred, who came to capture the traitors. Catherine tells Isabella to run away, while she will hold him back. Isabella starts running and shouted when she will return to the capital, she will kill every last one of the Redbud Knights. But then she was blocked by Morrison and Milius, who asked if she really can kill them. Isabella falls on the ground and admits defeat. Several days later, Elizabeth thanked Duke for protecting the kingdom in her absence. Duke replied it was all thanks to Princess Michelle, who saw through Isabella's plans. Elizabeth praised Michelle for her decisions and promised to give her everything that she couldn't do in the past few years. Michelle then asked if she can have some money. She explained that she hired Miss Alice and Sir Merlin to rescue her, and she promised to give them a reward. Elizabeth remembers Merlin's face, but then thought she's already a mother, so she can't live with him. Meanwhile, in the inn where Merlin and Alice are staying at, Merlin was insulting Alice for getting nervous, as if she is going on her first date. But Alice tells him to shut up because she's going to meet the queen, so of course, she would be nervous. Merlin thought that the situation is troublesome because instead of giving them their reward, the queen wants to see them in person. Alice noticed the destroyed palace and asked Merlin if he was the one who did it. Merlin replied he fought with the lake spirit, so of course there will be some damage. Alice tells Merlin that he destroyed the palace, so maybe the queen is summoning them to pay for the damage. Suddenly, Alice gets shocked as she heard someone calling their name from behind. She turns back and finds Cecilia and Kyle, who are there to escort them to the queen. Inside the carriage, Merlin tells Alice to go alone to meet the queen. He explained the handkerchief she tore that day belongs to the most powerful woman in the empire. Alice thought who the most powerful woman is and shouted if that belonged to the queen. Merlin said he borrowed it to cover his face, and the queen said it was very important and he needed to return it. He asked Alice now that she tore it up, so what will he give to her when he will meet her. After a while, Alice was bowing in front of the queen. Elizabeth tells her to stand up as she allowed her to see the light of the day again. She said Michelle has told her about everything, and she will always remember this favor. She then gave 2 boxes of gold coins and said this is the payment that she and Michelle agreed upon. Elizabeth then asked Alice if Merlin is with her too. Alice replied Merlin had to deal with something, so he can't come with her. Elizabeth tells Alice that something of her is temporarily in Sir Merlin's possession, and she hopes he has been keeping it well. Alice asked in a worried tone about that precious object, and the queen replied that it is a handkerchief that her late husband gave to her. Meanwhile, the subordinate of Baron Offer tells him about the rebellion and that the lake spirit has been defeated. Baron laughed and said, with the lake spirit gone, no one can stop him from defeating the empire. He then ordered his subordinate to prepare the troops and invade the capital. After a while, Macefield was taking Catherine somewhere. Catherine thought her time is over, but she was shocked to see Queen Elizabeth waiting for her. Elizabeth went close to her and said she never thought that Catherine would do something like this. Catherine apologized for her mistake and requested her to grant her death. But Elizabeth asked if she will grant her death, then what will happen to her mother? She added she already looked into it and found that to cure her mother's disease, Catherine made a deal with Isabella. Macefield then gave a book to Catherine and said this is Her Majesty's blessing for her. Elizabeth tells Catherine that this magical tome contains the imperial family's spells, and after saving her mother, she can return to her side. Catherine cried and thanked the queen for her generosity. In the imperial prison special cell, Isabella noticed Elizabeth and asked if she's there to laugh at her abjection. Elizabeth replied that the reason she could never become queen was that she never had the conscience to take the crown. But Isabella said ever since they were little, everything good went to Elizabeth, and even their father left the throne to her. But Elizabeth replied, violent, selfish, reckless, willing to put the empire into danger for her own personal gains. So their father made the right decision. Angered, Isabella tried to attack Elizabeth, saying it's all her fault. But Macefield saved Elizabeth and threw Isabella away from her. Isabella laughed and said if father had just hesitated a bit back then, she wouldn't have fallen to these depths. She cursed Elizabeth that her body will be crushed beneath the steel hooves of the Offer family. Elizabeth then orders Macefield to leave, as Isabella is beyond saving. 1 month after the incident of the imposter queen, the Offer family officially invaded the empire. Duke Wales' Rosebud Knights fought bravely, but Duke Offer's army, led by 4 powerful Saint ranks, was unstoppable. News of the Imperial Army's defeat spread like wildfire, and large numbers of civilians began to flee their homes. In the Wrexham village, Merlin read the news about the war and said, no wonder there were a lot less commissions than usual. It's almost noon, and Alice still hasn't come down, so he went to check on her. He entered the room and found Alice crying in pain. She looked at Merlin and said, for some reason, she is unable to muster any strength. He checked her temperature and found that her temperature is lower than normal. He understood that the dragon crystal within her is repairing her injuries from before. He tells her to not worry and explained that the crystal is repairing her body, so it has drained her stamina. Merlin then smiled and said, now that she can't muster any strength, then it's the right time for him to pick on her. But Alice called him a heartless monster and throws him out of her room. She was sulking, saying all she wants is for someone to stay with her, even if it's a demon. And as she was calling him stupid, idiot, perverted demon, Merlin brings something for her to eat. He said, after thinking for a while, and in his infinite kindness, he decided to take care of her. Alice looked at him and said she doesn't have any strength, and tells him to feed her, so Merlin agreed. On the other side, Duke explained the situation to the Queen and the others, that 5 cities have fallen into Offer's hands, and the difference between their army is just too great. He added that very soon, Offer's rebellion will reach the capital. Macefield said if Elgin's master swordsman hadn't injured the lake spirit, they wouldn't have to be so passive, even if the rebels reached the capital. But Elizabeth tells her to leave it, because if not for him, she would still be trapped underground. Duke Wales said that at least they now know the true identity of the Swordmaster. He is adventurer Merlin from Wrexham. Morrison suggests if the Swordmaster helps the Empire again, they can get out of this situation. Elizabeth agreed and said she will consider Sir Merlin's possibility and order Duke to continue explaining. Duke Wales added that according to the reports, the Offer family recruited many powerful mercenaries, and the most renowned of them are the Black Wolves. All the Redbud Knights get shocked after hearing the Black Wolves' name. Elizabeth asked Macefield who are the Black Wolves and why they all have this expression. Macefield explained Black Wolves is a mercenary group that gained fame during her imprisonment. They are active within the forest of demonic beasts, and even though there are only 5 of them, all of them have reached Saint rank. She said they currently have 5 Saint rank knights. One-on-one battle should be fine, but then they couldn't ensure her safety. Duke Wales then said these 5 individuals have all kinds of backgrounds, adventurers, bandits, murderer, and so on. Elizabeth was confused whether she should ask for Merlin's help again or not. Duke then said there is another difficulty, and that is the demonic beasts that the Offer family has tamed. Elizabeth said that Offer's family army is unstable, and as long as they manage to kill Duke Offer, his alliance will fall apart. She then tells them that she needs 2 heroes to bring a small team to assassinate Duke Offer before his army enters the capital. But this mission is too dangerous that even if they succeed, they may not be able to return safely. Macefield accepted the mission and said she will not tarnish the first knight's name. But Catherine interrupted and said her mission should be to protect Her Majesty, and she should be the one to go for killing the Duke. But Milieu said that dying can't atone for betraying Her Majesty, and an assassination stage belongs to him, and is not fit for a woman. He added that the fastest knight was Emmanuel, but now that he's dead, then he is the second fastest after him. Winifred agreed and said he too will join Milieu's, as they are childhood friends, and for a 2-man team, no one is more fitting than the 2 of them. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe.